Welcome to VIVA MMA, a YouTube channel for everyone who is a proud lover of all things MMA. Today I'm going to be talking about Khabib Nurmagomedov and Conor McGregor and the fallout of their amazing UFC 229 fight. And I'm going to be talking about the title fight between Derrick and Daniel Cormier, because that is going to be epic. Starting with the Khabib story, as expected, it's taking a turn not necessarily for the good. Dana White and the Nevada Gaming Commission are talking about possible sanctions for everyone involved in the melee after the fight. Apparently, Khabib took to Instagram today. I would like to address at UFC, why didn't you fire anyone when their team attacked the bus and injured a couple of people? They could have killed someone there. Why no one says anything about insulting my homeland, religion, nation, family? Why do you have to punish my team when both teams fought? If you say I started it, then I do not agree. I finished what he had started. In any case, punish me. At Zubaira Tukhugov has nothing to do with that. If you think I'll keep silent, then you're mistaken. You canceled Zubaira's fight, but don't forget that it was Conor who had hit my another brother first. Just check the video. If you decide to fire him, you should know that you'll lose me too. We never give up on our brothers in Russia, and I will go to the end for my brother. If you still decide to fire him, don't forget to send me my broken contract otherwise. And one more thing, you can keep my money that you are withholding. You are pretty busy with that. I hope it won't get stuck in your throat. We have defended our honor, and this is the most important thing. We intend to go to the end. #brothers. So here's the thing. I understand what Khabib is saying, and I kind of agree with him in large part. Conor McGregor's trash talk, I've said it in a previous video, went over the line. There is trash talk that's good for the sport, and there's trash talk that's not good for the sport, and then there's stuff that's actually just not trash talking anymore. It's just wrong. When I did the body language reading video of the Khabib McGregor press conference, there was a ton of stuff that I didn't even include in the video because it was just over the top stuff that is not, it's not even stuff I would want to share, even if it's for the purpose of critique. It was over the line, and the reality is that when you bring in nationality, religion, politics, you cross the lines of trash talking in an MMA fight to actual rhetoric that leads nowhere good. I say politics ruins everything, and bringing politics into the UFC ruins the UFC as well. I think Dana and the UFC should implement some form of protocol or code of conduct, even when it comes to trash talking, but we'll see if that comes out of this. I predict it will. But there is a vast distinction between what happened with the bus incident and what happened in the UFC after the fight. For those of you who have never met me before, I have another YouTube channel called Viva Fry. I am a lawyer by trade, and I've gotten into this YouTube thing over the last few years, and I kind of love it. I created this separate channel because UFC is not really family friendly, and my other channel is family friendly, and I don't want these two things to overlap really. Even when I was editing together my last vlog of my vlog of the night, because it was just too much blood for my main channel, which I know has a lot of kids watching, so I've created this separate channel so we can deal with all things MMA, because I love MMA. But I'm a lawyer by trade, so one of the important things that was going off in my head when I was reading Khabib's Instagram post is the question of jurisdiction. What happened with that bus incident was not in the UFC's jurisdiction in the same sense as what happened in the UFC after the fight in Vegas. And that's to say that the bus incident, which is unjustifiable and unjustified, is within the jurisdiction of the police. Now, there are morality clauses, from what I understand, in UFC contracts that could serve as the basis of a sanction for that type of conduct when it's outside of the octagon, but there is a world of difference between the chicanery that goes on outside of the octagon and the chicanery that went on inside and outside the octagon at UFC 229. If there are going to be brawls that get outside of the octagon at events, the UFC simply will not be able to hold events anymore. Nobody's going to give them permits to hold events if after fight melees lead to brawls that lead to injuries, that lead to all sorts of stuff that makes it impossible to actually put on an event. Nobody can really prevent UFC fighters from committing crimes outside the octagon, and the question then is, what should the UFC sanctions be for fighters who misbehave outside of the octagon? Specifically Conor McGregor, but I'm also thinking about John Jones, who was stripped of his titles for stuff that occurred outside the octagon. Then you compare that to stuff that goes on within the octagon. There's a fundamental rule in UFC, which is the violence stops when the fight is over. And when you have these after-fight brawls, it can potentially make it impossible to get permits to even hold these events in the first place. While one type of chicanery is bad for the sport and bad for the image, the other type, which is the fight after the fight, is potentially irreparably harmful for the sport in that it can put an end to the actual events. You know, and the classic example of the hardest of sanctions coming down for an after the fight sucker punch was Paul Daly. Now, when he sucker punched Koscheck after the fight, after the bell had rung, that is the most fundamental breach of the basic element of, call it trust, or just call it a rule, that makes fighting possible in the first place. If you do not know with certainty that fighters are not going to continue fighting after the final bell has rung, you cannot have those fighters fighting in the UFC. Incidentally, I happen to think that the lifetime ban of Paul Daly after that sucker punch of Koscheck after the fight, I thought it was a little extreme, and I thought Dana White would come back on it. And although I kind of disagree with it in terms of the severity of the sanction for the infraction itself, I understand the rationale. Sucker punching a fighter after the fight is over can actually undo the very fabric that makes these events possible in the first place. Whether or not McGregor got off too easy is another issue entirely, but the deflection is not necessarily the best defense. McGregor may have gotten off too easy. The UFC might have been better served to sanction McGregor more severely. We'll see what Dana White does. It's unfortunate that it went that way after the fight, because the fight was so darn good and Khabib was so flipping dominant. If there's ever a rematch, I will never doubt Khabib again. Period. But now, let's talk about something lighter. I am a man with a sense of humor, and I appreciate people with senses of humor, which is why I love Derrick Lewis and Daniel Cormier. Derrick Lewis, who after his amazing late round knockout at UFC 229, now has a title shot against Daniel Cormier. The fight is going to be epic. I love both of these guys, and I know who I think is going to win, but I'm always wrong, so I'm not going to voice my opinion, because whoever I pick always loses, and I'm just better off being quiet about it. But what better way to hype up this fight than to pick a question of principle and go with it? And apparently Derrick Lewis is angry at Daniel Cormier because he made fun of Popeye's chicken in a video from 2015.
Because you know I'm all about that cake and chicken.
I never knew this video existed until I saw it this morning, and when I saw it, I gotta tell you, my mouth was hanging open. I know Daniel Cormier has a good sense of humor. I don't know who thought this video was going to age well, and I don't know who thought this video was a good idea in the first place. This video is preposterous.
At places.
Ridiculous.
So she kept feeding.
Hilarious. Fantastic.
Eyes.
Glorious, and now I'm gonna have to go watch it 15 more times. But Derrick Lewis has drawn his own line in the sand, and his line in the sand is about Popeye's chicken. This fight is going to be glorious. Derrick, you better work on your cardio, because you cannot rely on a late third round knockout to win every fight. Your cardio was not there. I don't know how you're gonna do it in a month, but man, no Popeye chicken for you. Work that cardio, fight's gonna be awesome. And let's keep the trash talking humorous. That's when it's best. It's not best when it crosses the line. It's not best when it touches on identity politics. It's not best when it touches on religion, and that's not what the game is about. Do it like Tony Ferguson, with style, with class, with a biting, witty tongue, and not bringing it into these things that actually can cause serious conflict. Like I always say, a black eye heals, but you cannot unsay words spoken. If you liked anything I said, if you think there's any value in anything that you've just watched, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I love UFC, and I'm proud to say it. Peace out, and protect yourselves at all times.
I'm all about that cake